Hey, welcome to Watchmen Waiting on the Lord. I'm David, and I'm going to give you some news stories here. But before I do that, I just want to say um, get saved today. Do you hear the news stories? I believe the invasion has begun. I just heard that. I'm not sure of that. But, there are about 4 prophecies to be fulfilled, and it looks like they're heading that way. And I don't think you can afford not to get saved. That's what I have to say, and I'm going to give you the news. So this is War News 24/7. British Admiral warns we are 6 steps before World War III. What will happen if the Israeli army collapses with the Gaza operation? Pardon me, I have difficulty speaking, so it gets worse as I go along, so if you use my voice. 6 terrifying steps that could lead the current crisis in Gaza to develop into a World War III, warns British former head of the Navy. If things go wrong, retired British Admiral Lord West predicts, and this is 24, War News 24/7. Predicts not only the United Kingdom and the U.S. could become embroiled in the Israel-Hamas crisis, but also conflicts in Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and Russia. I think it's the whole world, right? The Israel-Hamas conflict risks escalating into an all-out war, with Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu expected to deploy all of his military might to the Gaza Strip. You see Gaza now. You will soon see it from the inside, and I think that will be brutal with all the tunnels and everything. Who knows what kind of booby traps? And you know what? I thought I can just imagine that they have like TNT under the ground, just waiting for people to walk over. That's what I picture in my mind. You'll soon see it from the inside, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Galad told his soldiers. Retired Admiral Lord West believes the situation in the Middle East has escalated dangerously since Hamas Islamists launched an attack on October 7th, killing around 1,400. I heard some of the torture stories today by Amir Sarfati, and they're as bad as I've ever heard. Worse than the Nazis. I'm not kidding, I've read the stories. Israel's overreaction. Israel's full military force has been massed on the border for 2 weeks at Gaza, as Gaza prepares for a full-scale ground invasion and what Tel Aviv expects is a protracted war. It's a dangerous, toxic mixture, considers Lord West in his statements to the British newspaper. This could turn into an explosive battle. Lord West pointed out that the crisis could turn into a powder keg that's about to explode, leading to World War III. The war is spreading in Lebanon, predicting what could happen in the coming days, weeks, or months. The former British Navy chief reckons the situation could escalate with a high number of civilian casualties if Israel reacts violently. I think they've been pretty fair. It's perfectly understandable that Israel wants revenge, says Lord West. However, if he takes prisoners and overreacts, he will provoke the Arab world, which will in turn commit atrocities, he said. We saw what happened with the hospital, right? And that wasn't even true. Without food, electricity, water, and the attack they will face from Israeli ground forces, there's a possibility of massive casualties on the Palestinian side. And when you have massive numbers of casualties, then the Arab world will change its attitude. Can you imagine the world coming against Israel? You wonder what might set it off. Doesn't take much, right? You've seen that. The Iranian-backed Hezbollah organization has full military and political control in Lebanon and has already fought against Israel in 2006, killing 1,200. Since Hamas launched a surprise attack on October 7th, Hezbollah has been sending solidarity rockets to Israel's northern border and threatening to take part in the war when the time comes. And they have been warring that I believe there's 14 tanks that have been taking out, 14 Merkavas. Tanks can be taken out. The result was a bloody border clashes when in one of them a journalist was killed and 6 of his colleagues were injured. However, foreign powers have urged Hezbollah to stay on the sidelines for fear that if the Israel-Hamas conflict spreads to Lebanon, it will open up a new front, and this would be the first step in a more general conflagration. This is a particularly dangerous situation, points out West. If Hezbollah gets involved, that would be a real problem for Israel. But if there's a dramatic escalation between Israel and Iran, then the risk of US and UK involvement. For Lord, I feel kind of shame for other countries not stepping in. For Lord West, Jerusalem has long regarded Hamas as a terrorist organization based in Lebanon and a greater threat than the Palestinian Sunni group, Sunni or Sunni, and has more advanced weapons in its arsenal, including precision missiles and drones, PGMs, precision guided missiles. Israel would again react very strongly against them, without a doubt carrying out attacks in Lebanon, where a chaotic situation prevails. That is, the regime could easily collapse, which would cause greater certainty in the region, underlines the retired admiral. Already the British have been ordered by the Foreign Office to leave Lebanon immediately, after violent Palestine protests broke out. The US Embassy in Beirut has been targeted, and the UK ministers feared the Israel-Hamas war could affect the fragile nation at any moment. The Russian-Syria alliance against Israel, with the Lebanese government likely to collapse. The third step to chaos could be the involvement of Russia's ally, Syria, in the war. The president of Bashar al-Assad would be extremely foolish, but he may feel that he somehow has to get involved in the hostilities. But the problem is that Assad, he used chemicals 300 times on his own people. If he feels like he's backed by Russia, he'll do it. Explaining that this would be a means for Putin to stay out of hostilities. He believes that for Putin, the Israel-Hamas war is fantasy, because it has diverted the attention of the world community away from Russia-Ukraine hostilities, and it has. So the more public opinion engages in the Israel-Hamas war, the happier the Russian president will be, explains Lord West. War with Iran. For the retired British admiral, Iran could try to use its ability to inspire terrorism in other countries, like a lone wolf, right? That's all it takes. To carry out new attacks against Israel. He argues that should the situation take a turn for the worse, and should Israel attack Iran, and I think they're going to do that, the fourth step towards escalating the conflict, then there is no doubt that Iran would blame the United States and UK involvement. I don't think Iran has anything to say in this, So suddenly the situation could get out of hand, West stresses, believing that Iran sees Britain as the little Satan and the US as the big Satan. I thought it was Israel was the little Satan, but the Tehran regime is the main backer of the Palestinian terrorist organization Hamas, as well as Hezbollah, based in Lebanon. But Iran's, the IRGC, the guards, have already warned Israel that it will be exterminated after Hamas terrorist rampage. Tehran has repeatedly warned that a ground attack on Gaza would be met on other fronts. And from what I just heard, they could have. I'm not saying they did. I'm going to have to check after this video that they may have already started. Pardon me, I'm going to take a sip of water here. US and UK involvement next. The United Kingdom and the United States have already sent military and naval forces to support Israel in its war against Hamas and bolster regional stability. And on Friday, a U.S. Navy warship opened fire, bolstering Israel's defenses. The warship, operating in the Red Sea, shot down drones and missiles. Those were cruise missiles fired by Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen believed to be targeting Israel, of course. Meanwhile, a protracted war is expected following the Israeli army's offensive in the Gaza Strip. The war-torn country could end up fighting Hezbollah on its northern front, where it has recently sent thousands of reservists. Excuse me. If Israel starts to fall apart because of Hezbollah and Hamas, there is a real risk that the US and the UK will get involved. That's what would happen. Without a doubt. You know, when you read the Bible and it says 2/3 will be killed in Revelation, I believe, but it'll still be saved. God will still protect. I don't know when that is. I'm just and if things go really wrong, he adds, NATO will try to increase our capabilities in the Eastern Mediterranean because that could turn into a battle. This will be the 5th step toward escalation. And then the last one is involvement of Saudi Arabia. The 6th and final step, I see it a little bit differently than this. But the 6th and final step that could plunge the world into an unprecedented war would be for Saudi Arabia to get involved. For many years, Iran has supported Yemen's Shiite Houthi rebels who are at war with the Islamic neighbor of Saudi Arabia. They also share Iran's hatred of the US and Israel. Already, terrorists have started firing rockets at military bases hosting the United States forces in Syria and Iraq. They're still doing that now. And Joe Biden reaffirmed his strong support for Israel. The Houthi rebels have provoked Saudi Arabia several times by launching Iranian-supplied missiles to its territory. This fact, combined with the general chaos that could prevail in the Middle East, could infuriate Saudi Arabia enough to engage in the massacre. So you could see it, you could see that going, a few different ways, right? We don't know which way that's going to go. And I know what the Bible does say about that, and it doesn't mean that will happen right away. I'm going to read this very quickly. Chinese and Philippines. This is from Reuters. Philippines say Chinese Coast Guard intentionally collided with its boats. They're being very, they're adjutants, eh? They're just, they're doing it to the planes. They're doing everything. They say they own this and they own that. Intentionally collided with its boats. The Philippines on Monday accused Chinese Coast Guard vessels of intentionally colliding with its vessels on a resupply mission in a disputed part of the South China Sea, as ties deteriorated between the South Asian U.S. ally and Beijing. Both sides traded accusations after the latest incident on Sunday, which was the most serious yet in the waters around the disputed Second Thomas, I don't know if they said that right, shoal, though no one was harmed. China said on Sunday that the Philippine boats bumped dangerously with the Coast Guard vessels and Chinese fishing vessels there. On Monday, China's embassy in Manila said it had lodged stern representations to the Philippines over its vessels trespassing and called on the Philippine government to stop causing trouble and provocation at sea, to stop smearing China's reputation with groundless attacks. Officials from the Philippine National Security Council, Coast Guard, Foreign Ministry, Defense Ministry, and Armed Forces condemned the actions of the Chinese Coast Guard. So they're probably telling the truth. I don't mean China, because there's videos of what they're doing, doing flybys, by observation aircraft. Siding with its allies, the U.S. formally expressed concern in a statement that China's Foreign Ministry said ignored the facts. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in a call with his Philippine counterpart Eduardo Ano on Monday, reiterated U.S. support for Manila following the incident, calling the Chinese maritime actions dangerous and unlawful. I've read that their population is so big and they're at the point, people think they're very strong, but the reality is that their people could starve very quickly. and they're in a place where, I mean, things are, I think China, it isn't looking good in China, let's just say. I've heard the statistics of the realities. Philippines Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro said during a news conference that Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels, in blatant violation of international law, harassed and intentionally hit Manila's supply boat and Coast Guard ship. This is a serious escalation of the illegal activities conducted by the Chinese government in the West Philippine Sea in complete disregard of any norm or convention of international law. He acknowledged the support of our allies and like-minded nations such as the US, Japan, Australia, Germany, Canada, the Netherlands, UK, and European Union in condemning China's aggression and expansionist actions. Those countries named there could be quite powerful together. I'll just leave it there for that one so we know that occurred. Listen to this. It's tough for me to swallow water. Listen to this. Spain seizes ancient gold jewelry stolen from Ukraine, worth $64 million. Spain has seized ancient gold artifacts valued at 60 million euros, stolen from Ukraine after thieves were caught trying to sell them in Madrid, Spanish police said on Monday. The 11 pieces, primarily jewelry, including intricate necklaces, not too smart of them, eh? Bracelets, earrings, and dated from the Greco-Scythian period between the 8th and 4th centuries BC, the police said. The items were exhibited in a Kiev museum between 2009 and 13 and were smuggled out of the Ukraine in 2016, Madrid National Police said in a statement without identifying the museum. The artifacts had forged documents to make it look as if they belonged to the Ukraine Orthodox Church, police said. 3 Spanish and 2 Ukrainian nationals were arrested as part of the investigation, which began in 2021, after one of the pieces of gold belt with ram's head was sold in a private sale in Madrid. So I guess they're saying here, a euro is about $1. That's about as much as it is. So that's like 63 million US dollars. Canada, that would be, I don't know, that maybe 95 million. So I have one more story. I think I'll tell one more story here. Yeah. This one's heartbreaking, and I didn't read it, but I can just gather this. Hostage families face appalling dilemma as Gaza invasion approaches. This is Reuters. Can you imagine? You're just, you have a chance, possibility at getting someone back, and the invasion's going to happen, and you don't want that to happen because they could be in more danger. That could make them more angry. I heard a story today that absolutely made me feel sick, broke my heart. Watch Amir Sarfati's video today, and you'll find out the stories of torture, of what they did. It's just unbelievable. So, the summary is that Hamas holds an estimated 222 hostages in Gaza. Israel has vowed to eliminate Hamas, propound ground war. Jerusalem, October 23rd, Reuters. As Israel prepares to invade the Gaza Strip, many families of hostages seized by Hamas are pleading with the government. Pray for them, please, to rein in the war effort and instead negotiate the release of their loved ones. Highlighting the appalling dilemma facing the whole country, other relatives warn mediation could take years and say their best hope lies with the military. hoping ground forces could find the missing men, women, and children before it's too late. I agree with that. And, I think you get at some point where you're just like, we have to do this and we can't hold it off type thing. It's for the better good and it will save more lives. But, if you're the family, obviously, you got to feel for them, and that's why you have to pray. Your prayer is worth more than you know. Hamas fighters grabbed an estimated 222 people aged from 9 months to 85 years during their October 7th rampage, during which they killed 1,400 people. Many of those taken hold dual nationality, including many with the United States. There was like 30, I think, and European passports. I gotta make sure this is recording right now because my cable is easy to set off. The hostages are believed to be hidden in the Gaza Strip, possibly in a warren of tunnels Hamas has built beneath the enclave, even as Israeli warplanes pound the territory ahead of the threat invasion, killing more than 5,000 Palestinians. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to eliminate Hamas in Israel. Israeli troops could enter Gaza at any moment, so I just heard they really have. I don't know, can't verify that. But many families are urging him to focus solely on the hostages. This should be the top priority, not to destroy Hamas, not to control Gaza or anything else, said Noam Alon, the boyfriend of Inbar Hyman, the 27-year-old artist who was one of the abducted from a music festival. Family support groups are holding daily protests outside Netanyahu's office in Tel Aviv to keep the fate of the captives in the spotlight, and have set up a table with a place setting for each missing person in a city square as a symbol of the plight of those abducted. On Sunday, President Isaac Herzog met with scores of affected relatives at his Jerusalem residence, while outside hundreds demonstrated, calling for more to be done for the hostages. Which one do you choose, right? How do you do that? That's when you got to send in commandos, special forces. But they're in tunnels. That's very tough. I think there's like 50,000 Hamas. Revenge is not a plan. Read one banner held up by Carmel Gournay, a political activist whose cousin, Yifta Gournay, was killed during the Hamas assault. We need to talk to Hamas. We can't always resort to war. We have so many Palestinian prisoners, we can swap our people, Gournay said. If our soldiers go in, many will die, including the hostages. I think, I'm going to keep my opinion to myself. Prisoner swap dilemma. Not all families agree, so they don't all agree. Alan and Sandy Feldman were among those who met with Herzog on Sunday to talk about Sandy's sister and brother-in-law, Aviva and Keith Siegel, who were kidnapped on the 7th and last seen in a video being driven into Gaza by Palestinian militants. Pardon me, I gotta take a break in my voice here. They expressed doubts over whether the Siegels would survive prolonged captivity and thought an invasion was inevitable. There's a sense that they won't come out alive, but I think this is bigger than me or us, and that's what I mean. This is a fight against right and wrong. It's that simple, said Ilan. There can't be a place where Hamas lays down roots. Jonathan Dekel-Chen, whose 35-year-old son Segui was believed to have been kidnapped from a kibbutz, said Hamas has to be dealt with now, but thought the army had to make rescuing the hostages a priority of any military campaign. It's possible to do two things at once, even for this Israeli government to do everything in its power to protect the lives and well-being of our loved ones while doing what it has to do to Hamas, he told Reuters. Israel has a long experience of dealing with hostage crisis, so does Europe, but has previously shied away from attempting rescue operations in the densely populated Gaza Strip. In 2011, Netanyahu released over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners to secure the release of an army sergeant, Gilad Shalit, who was held in Gaza for more than 5 years. That's just insane. That's like, what Biden did with $6 billion for like 6 people, 5. Some of the freed Palestinians returned to the ranks of Hamas, including its current leader in Gaza, Yahya al-Sinwar. Should we negotiate with them again? Look at all the people who were released for Shalit, and now we are the ones who went on and murdered. Was it worth it? I don't know. The reality is, if that attack kept going and going, they would have killed everyone they came across and did all those things to whoever as many people as they could. Uncompromising. Hamas unilaterally released 2 women with dual Israeli-U.S. nationality last Friday for humanitarian reasons in a deal brokered by Qatar, a long backer of Hamas. Mediation efforts are continuing, a Qatari foreign ministry spokesperson has said. However, there's no indication that Israel is in the mood for prisoner swaps. Netanyahu has appointed a retired General Gal Hirsch and Israel's coordination of the hostages and missing persons. His public comments so far have been uncompromising. Our war machine is moving. Don't ask us to stop, he told a gathering of European ambassadors last week in an angry address where accused Western governments of holding Israel back in past confrontations with Hamas. This is a wake-up call for you. We woke up completely, thank God. There will be an unimaginable response, believe me. We've only just started the war, he said. Hamas has suggested its hostages could be swapped for 6,000 Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. But Israeli security experts have questioned whether such a deal could ever happen if the government were willing to consider it. Hamas isn't stupid. They won't release the hostages all at once. They'll stretch us out for 5 years if they can. Gloria Island, a former head of the National Security Council, told 103 FM radio, many of the captives have medical conditions that need to care are elderly, meaning time is of the essence. Those people don't have much time. We have to help these hostages very quickly, said Daniel Lifshitz, whose parents, aged 83 and 85, were abducted and have vanished into Gaza. Can you imagine? And those people could have been Holocaust survivors, and there were some. So thanks for watching this video. Now is the time to get saved. Things are moving. I'm going to check to see if it's started. I guess we'll all find out, right? But the best is to come to God now and get saved now. That's my advice to you. It doesn't take much. You just ask God to come into your heart, open up a Bible. It's that simple, and just read. You'll find the truth.